What do you guys got going on in your gardens right now?
Oh, bro, I just had massive harvest actually. I didn't even share that with you guys. Kind of did it in the dark, to be honest with you.
You
I
shared it live though.
I did. Yeah, I did go live. It was a beast to take down, man. Her stem was like this, and I had to saw it. I took a saw and I started cutting her down, and I got it hung up. It's inside my 4x4 right now, dark. And thank you, shout to AC Infinity, man. With the inline circulating on 2. For those that know, it's got a setting out of 10. I have it on its second setting. It's maintaining a 60 and 60, pretty damn consistent. So we're talking 60 freedom units and 60 percent humidity. It's got a little swing, so I'll see about 59 in terms of the freedom units, and then that's as low as it goes, and then I'll see as high as 62 on the humidity. So that's my swing. That's it. That's all it's swinging. This is the first time I've had this much control over a dry space. And let me tell you, is it amazing? I went in there today. It's been 5 days. Went in there today, and it's still like you can feel it starting to crisp over, but there's so much moisture left in those buds. Typically, with my environment, by day 5, I'm done. Like it's done. I'm ready to chop it down and put it in jars. So to have this much humidity still, pretty dang awesome. Pretty dang awesome. So yeah, it was a big harvest. Sorry?
Have you felt a difference? Like, other than that time right there, like, do you think you're never going to go back to an open room dry like you did in the past?
No. No, I will never go back. I'm tent for life, man. The smartest decision I ever made was going into a tent in a lung room, right? So my garden, my room that it's in was my garden. So it is insulated. It's already white. It's already retrofitted with electrical. So that environment's important. But having tents it's second to none. The control over the environment, the enclosed environment, the reflective material in the environment. But more importantly, the keeping out of pests. I had issues with bugs, like just leading up to getting a tent. Once I got a tent, virtually gone. So definitely a method of managing pests would be, enclosing that environment, maintaining control over your space.
I think that's a prime example of, like, if you feel like your room is secure and it's good to go, if you're running into issues, it might not be. And that's the difference of having a tent that is because it's built for that, versus trying to have your room be that open space that also is airtight, perfectly secure, temperature, everything. It's really difficult, I feel like, depending on if you're doing it just in a house or a room built to spec. Like if you got a pole barn or a basement or somewhere that you've built to have just a feature of a garden, I could see it being really good. But if you're turning that spare bedroom into it, you got to do some extra works, even in the insulation and the paint, and we're putting up, plastic on the walls versus having just the tent that's a little bit more, it's just designed for that. It's a perfect version. Not all tents, of course, are built the same. AC Infinity's knocking it out of the park, but there's a lot of variables.
Somebody might ask, it's like, well, what's the difference between having a tent in a well-ventilated room or a well-secured room? It's size, baby. Size. That's it. That's my underlining. That's what she said. That's right. I read about that, Wikipedia. She never said it to me. But anyways, the thing is that the overall size of a room is generally going to present inherent issues. And what are those issues? Well, depending on how you handle them, they're not necessarily issues, but challenges. It's you have to moisten that room. I'm going to say moisten. You have to increase your humidity. You have to work harder to heat it. You have to work harder to cool it. You have to work harder to seal it. All these kind of things. So if you do that, let's say you have in my room, I have an 8x8. It's like 8x12, I think, by 8. So 8x12 by 8 high. And I had the room pretty well retrofitted. It was still not off the concrete, but essentially from that, it was great. It was perfect. All I had to do to make it perfect was put tents in it. So yeah, whether you want a 4x8, whether you want a 4x4, a 2x4, there's a tent that's for you. And I think it's like a hack almost. I swear, growing in a tent is a hack.
Chris, have you had an open space in your room? We had the pleasure of having a FTS cribs, and we got to go over and see Chris's whole setup. I was gonna put it in my video, and I'm like, it's showing a little too much of the whole space versus just the room. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to put your whole house on blast. Beautiful house, but didn't want to put it on blast. Did you ever have an open space in that area though?
Yeah, that room you guys went into. Yeah, the footage I got off of that was pretty sloppy as well. So I didn't really do anything with that footage. But that was fun that you guys stopped by. I did have that room open at one point. So I started with a 4x8 tent in that room, just one tent. Took up more than half the room, right? It's like, I think it's a 9x12. So almost half of the room. But started with that, then ended up going open room. And that was fun. And then I went back to tents, so I agree with P is where I like that sort of microclimate that, of course I'm still controlling the air in my lung room as well, but it's just a little bit easier to get the proper air into the grow tent, or at least managing it within that grow tent. With the grow light coming on, increasing the heat, for example. I run humidifiers. I live in a very dry climate, so I have to have humidifiers in my grow tent and also my lung room. But increasing the humidity in the lung room, getting that air into the tent is easier to maintain the humidity for me in particular. I know some people live in humid environments, right? I think you guys sometimes are battling humidity. We have to have a dehumidifier. I imagine that kind of works the same, to where if you have a dehumidifier in your lung room, the air coming into your grow tent is of the proper RH. So, but of course, there's always variables, right? When you turn off the lights, plants transpire, humidity spikes, and that is always battling with the temperature and humidity. But the open room that I had, it worked out pretty well. I liked having the space, everything just open and working, but I just went back to tents. I just like tents better, for just
Totally
better
agree.
control of the conditions. So.
Yeah, but I've grown in an open space, I've grown in a pole barn, and I've grown in a basement. My favorite by far is the tents in the open space. No question.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's
trying to
a
get
double
at.
duty, you know.
Yeah, you said that perfect. I got
Double.
excited when you said it because it just came out so perfect. Tents in an open space. Yes.
Well, you got to think about it too, man. Like how you had it set. Mine was already a grow room too. Yours was already a grow room too. Chris was already a grow room too. These were already set up to be, it's say 80% proficient. And then we got a tent that's 100%, or say 99%. That's a lot better of a control of your environment. It does have a lot more reliant on you then, of course. So you got to make sure you're on top of your game. But I swear by having a tent in a good open space is the easiest and most beneficial way for growing for me from beginning to end. Because whether you want to have that humidity very high in this one spot or very low in this one spot, drying in another place, light at a different time, it just really is nice. I've got 3 tents in my space. So I've got the 4x8, 4x4, and a 4x4. And that makes it so I can keep the perpetual system going, but I also have a drying tent that's really convenient for me.
That's what I was just going to say, is the other main selling point was being able to have different light cycles, right? So instead of just being in one open room where it's one light cycle, well, now I have a couple different tents, and I can have a veg light cycle and a flowering light cycle, or I can have a drying tent and, a flowering tent or whatever. There's more flexibility on that avenue. So yeah, another major selling point for me, at least.
Absolutely. My humidity here in Michigan is currently low, but it goes high. It goes like up and down. So being able to have that full control is super big for me. And then I'm using the AC Infinity everything pretty much, but the humidifier, which is nice. So it's not right in my tent. I've got the hose extended and it's pulling it in, and I could do it in either tent I want or have 2 of them going at once. So it makes it so it's completely dialed in. I've got the ecosystem exactly like I want, versus in the past I'm reliant on like, well, winter we get the best grow. Everybody knows winter's the best. And it's like, nah, all year is if you optimize it, man. You can do it anytime. There's no difference. It's not like winter harvests are better. They used to be back when I started, but now, no difference.
No, and you just got to remember too, like you're gonna be constantly changing your system. You might have to increase your heater temperature or your heater thermostat. You might have to decrease it. Might have to increase humidity, decrease humidity at any point of the time during the year based on whatever time of year it is. But a lot of this automated stuff is doing that for you. I don't have to. What I feel, I don't have to do anything. Walk up, I look at the tent. It's like, yep, exactly the way I left it. Perfect.
Yeah.
3 days later. Exactly the way I left it. Perfect. All right. It's pretty consistent.
This FTS clip was brought to you by AC Infinity, leaders in garden innovation. Use discount code TheStash15 at checkout to save some money on your order.
From the Stash Podcast.